Hi, I'm Carl Taylor. Welcome to Carl Taylor Live on Facebook. Now, we normally try to go live on YouTube at the same time, but Facebook have shut that down. They're not letting us do that, and they're not letting anyone do that, apparently. You have to do some major workaround to make that happen now, because I don't think they like each other very much. So, anyway, what we're going to do is we're recording this time, and we'll stick it out on YouTube after. And those of you that are watching the recording on YouTube, we'll do our best to answer your comments in the comments below the video. So today, again, like last week, we're doing a live Q&A. So if you've got any photography related questions, anything I can help you with, any advice you'd like from maybe even a business photography perspective, techniques perspective, all that sort of stuff, tips, tricks stuff, then please fire them in and I will do my best to answer them during the course of this Q&A session. Now, to kick off, I've got a couple of things we're going to talk about. The first one is I had an email from a photographer called Michael Greco. Now, some of you may have heard of Michael. He's a very talented photographer. I've spoken to Michael once before, but we don't really know each other. But anyway, he sent me an email that was like a sort of broadcast email he sent out. And it was about this new support for visual artists. Let's take a look at this. This is all to do with copyright claims, basically. The system of copyright in America, and to some extent here in Europe as well, is a little bit cloudy in many ways. So if someone infringes your copyright on a major level, like say that one of your bits of work gets stolen or used by a company, etc., etc. If it's a big company and it's a big project, then people are more reluctant to steal your work because they know there's going to be some comeback. But what about those smaller jobs, those smaller companies? What about those companies that maybe have just got a small website and they just take pictures off another photographer's website and just use them willy-nilly, and they think, oh, you know what, no one will ever know, I'll just nick it. And it's happened to me before. As a matter of fact, there was a travel company, sort of small, medium-sized travel company that were doing tours of Paris, and they just stole loads of my pictures of some of my travel shots on Paris from my website and put them on their own website without saying a word, no credit, no mention, not anything. And luckily, because we've got a big following on social media, people normally get caught out because someone will contact me and go, hey, Carl, I saw your pictures, they were being used, I just wanted to check. And very grateful when people do that. And I've got to say that's happened about 6 or 7 times now, where someone's contacted me and said, is this your picture? Because I saw it being used on this company's website. Sure enough, gone and checked. Small business has taken my picture off my website and used it on their own website. Now, in those instances, it's very difficult to get any financial compensation for it. It's difficult to be able to send them an invoice and say, hey, you've used my images illegally. And I've done that, and on occasions it's worked, but on other occasions they just say, oh, I've taken them down now, thanks very much. I even had a photography company once recently use part of one of my videos in their video about a product they were making on photography, and they were trying to use my name to give it credibility. It was absolutely disgraceful. But this stuff happens. Anyway, so Michael emailed me about this copyright case act called HR 3945 in America, and it's a new copyright law they're trying to get in place, and they're looking for artists, visual artists, to support it. And what it means is that if this happens to you and a small company uses your images illegally, or anything under the value of $15,000, then you won't need to go to all of the effort and trouble you have to go through the legal system, go to court and get lawyers and everyone involved, all of the hassle that's associated with that. You won't need to worry about that anymore, because with this system, you'll be able to make a claim really easily by using this small claims process. So this is an email from Michael Greco about supporting this new small claims process, and I encourage you to do so. You can find out more here at copyrightalliance.org, and there is a bill to be created to support small claims, so that if your pictures are violated, your copyright's violated by a company and you've got evidence of it, maybe you screen record their website, you show that it's your pictures, you'll be able to get compensation from them without all of the hassle of all the legal stuff and lawyers and everything that you would normally have to go through. So I think this is a great initiative. I would encourage you to support it. Obviously this bill is for America, but on several occasions, the companies that have stolen my work have been in America. So, you know, any improvements on the copyright laws to help photographers is a good thing. And I hope that something similar appears in Europe. So give us your thoughts on what you think. If any of you have ever experienced any copyright issues where your work's been stolen and used without your permission. Now, as I said, today we're doing a Q&A, so if we get any questions in, then we're going to answer those. First of all, though, I want to look at one other topic. We put a video out on YouTube recently called Photographing in Small Spaces. Here it is here. We helped a client of mine, a friend of mine actually, who's got a wine business and he produces thousands of bottles of wine. And he asked me if I could set up a small studio for him in his offices, and it's a really small space, like 3 meters by 3 meters. And he basically came to me and said, "Can you photograph all this wine?" And I said, "Look, Jason," I said, "it's just going to cost too much money, because it's going to cost you a lot of money for me to shoot 100 bottles of wine and then another 100 another day and set it up and break it down and set it up and all the rest of it." So I said, "Look, why don't I just build you or create a small studio for you, and you can do it yourself," because literally once you've got the setup right for this, it's actually the same for every bottle, nearly in every circumstance, red wine, white wine. And I needed to create a setup for him so that the white wine would look good, the illumination through the wine, so the labels look good, so the red wine looked good. And anyway, we released this video on YouTube, which you can see here, but we also released a blog post about it as well, called How to Set Up a Small Photography Studio for Pack Shots, and all the kit that was needed. But we also included a lighting diagram here, which Tim put together, and it's a very accurate rendition of our actual setup in this small 3 by 3 meter space. So, and these are some of the results that he was getting. So if you're interested in this sort of stuff, on how to get great results straight out of camera for your product shots or, you know, bottle shots or whatever, then go and check out this blog post. The video's in the blog post. How do you get to the blog post? Well, here's how you get to the blog post. You go to carltayloreducation.com, you scroll right down to the bottom of the home page, and you will find our blog. There it is. Click on our blog, and then that will take you through. Did I click it? There you go. Here's some of the recent blog posts, and there it is there, how to set up a small photography studio. So if you're not already a member on Carl Taylor Education, do, you know, stay on our mailing list, sign up to our mailing list, pay attention to our blog. We put loads of good stuff out on our blog, YouTube, etc. As well. Obviously, we put our best stuff out on carltayloreducation.com. We'd be foolish not to, but we've still got loads of great little blog articles going out anyway. Right, let's see if we've got any questions coming in here. What have we got here? I've got a few being fed over to me now. Justin Cantor says, "What's your favourite part of being a photographer or artist?" It's a good question, Justin. I suppose, given that I've always been passionate about photography, I first picked up a camera when I was 17, which was quite a long time ago now. And at that point, you know, it was a passion, it was a hobby. And then to be able to evolve that and develop that into a career is an amazing thing to be able to do. Like Tom Oldham said on our live talk show the other day, he said, you know, he still can't believe that he gets paid to go around the world just because he's got a bag of cameras. So, you know, that is quite special. However, there is quite a difference between working as a commercial professional photographer and taking pictures for pleasure, because when you start to do it as a business, it does become a business, and that is something that does affect in many ways the work that you do. However, don't get me wrong, I still tremendously enjoy what I do. I love the challenges of big elaborate shoots or complex product shoots or fashion shoots or whatever. I love solving problems. That's what I love the most. So in terms of being a photographer, I like the problem solving. It's coming up with a solution that meets the client's requirements. There's always a way by using physics and light to overcome nearly all the problems. And for the problems you can't overcome with physics, then you have to revert to Photoshop. So I think that's probably one of my favorite parts. But I guess at the end of the day, the most important thing to me is just about making images. I just love making images. So I would say that's the favorite part. Wajehi Homik says, hi Carl, which tripod head would you recommend for product photography? That's a very good question. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. You really need a geared head for product photography. You can get a couple of different types of heads. You can get three-way heads, which have got three handles. Loosen the handle and it slips over. You can get ball heads, where you've got a tightening nut and then it's on a ball, moves around. Those type of heads, they mean that the camera moves in great big movements that are almost uncontrollable. There's no finesse to the movement. You sort of move it, two hands, lock it, and there you go. But if you do product photography, what you often need is just small adjustments to the composition or the angle of the camera. And to do that, you need what's called a geared head. And a geared head has got three dials, so on the three axis, rotational, tilt, and drop, you turn the wheel and the camera just moves a very, very small amount. So you can move your composition and adjust your composition really easily. So they're called geared heads. I use Manfrotto geared heads. I think I use a 410 as my main geared head, but I think Manfrotto have got about 3 different types of geared heads, from a sort of lighter weight, smaller junior one, and then up to the bigger ones. So a geared head is essential as the head for product photography. As is a good solid studio stand. I use the Manfrotto Super Salon as my main studio stand, but even a good solid tripod like the Manfrotto 058B or some of their bigger carbon fiber ones can be good tripods for product photography as well. But a geared head is an absolute must. A geared head in the field when you're doing landscape photography is too slow. It's almost too slow to get it to react. But what you need in studio environment and product photography is more precision, and that's what a geared head gives you. Andrei Tovzhenko says, what do you think about free mask in the Broncolor app? I actually think it's quite good because it's a way of getting an immediate cutout around the product saved and locked down for you if you know you're going to do cutouts. I don't often do cutouts though, so my work, if I want it on a pure white background, I'll make sure it's on a pure white background, and then obviously Photoshop can automatically cut it out if you need it anyway. But if you want it on a pure white background, then why not just shoot it on a pure white background and then it's ready to go. That's kind of interesting actually, because that leads back to what we're doing here about shooting in a small space. Here we are shooting the product straight out of camera on a pure white background so that they don't have to do any cutout work. They can just go straight out of the camera onto their website. So I guess it depends on your requirements. So the app, the free mask app gives you that ability to create these cutouts by converting the way you're using your lights. I'm not that familiar with it, to be honest, Andre, in that I don't use it. I've seen it, but I don't use it. Victor Fayesh says, wasn't there someone, hello Victor, how are you mate? Victor is our retoucher of choice, and obviously you may know Victor if you've seen him on our tutorials on carltayloreducation.com. Superb retoucher. Guildstudios.com is Victor's website if you're looking for a retoucher. Now, what has Victor got to say? Wasn't there something when someone used your image but swapped out someone's head for someone else? Yes, there was. Someone took my photo of me in my studio, chopped my head off and put a very, very poor Photoshop job together of someone else's head in place of mine, and then used it on a photography website selling photography gear or something. But that was hilarious. I mean, the Photoshop work was so bad, as you know, Victor, that I mean, it was painfully obvious that it was a Photoshop job. But I mean, the audacity of someone stealing a photo, not just a photo of mine, but actually a photo of me, cutting my own head off, sticking someone else's head on it and using it on their website. Hilarious. Oh, yes, that's right. Emma just pointed out that they actually used my photo originally with me on it, and then we complained and told them to take it down. They just took my head off. So they took my head off and swapped it for someone else's head, thinking that they weren't violating my copyright anymore. We got that stuff taken down. Yeah, we got that taken down in the end. Don't worry about that. Next question we have is Sudeep Tapa says, how important is editing in photography? Well, it's extremely important. There's two types of editing, isn't there? There's editing as in selection. So if you're a wedding photographer and you've got like 1,000 photographs or more to look at from your a wedding shoot, then the selection process is important, which is why programs like Lightroom are really great, because they allow you to star rate or color rate, or make selections and do compares, select and compare and switch and compare, as I can do in Focus software. And that process is part of the editing. It's about narrowing down the shots that you need, the ones that you need to use, because you're never going to use them all. So you want to choose the best ones. So selection, I consider part of the editing process, so your software needs to be able to do that. And then the editing process itself is important, but again, in the work that I do, I try to minimize it. My Photoshop work is mostly burning, dodging, which is shading basically, lightening areas, darkening areas, contrast adjustment, and color hue, that sort of thing. And that sort of adjustment, even though it's not changing things, it changes the appearance of images quite dramatically, as Victor will testify. And if you look at some of our post-production tutorials, you'll see how impactful and how powerful just burning and dodging actually is. You don't change anything in terms of comping or physically removing something, you just change the tonality. And that gives you some amazing control over polishing the images, and that's what we do mostly. Many photographs can be great straight out of camera, and that's what you aim for, but you obviously want to polish them a little bit further as well, just for that last final stage. So yes, it is important. Claude Fidel says, hello Carl, what is the best prime lens for wedding portrait? Now that's too rigid a question, I'm afraid, Claude, because that's like saying, what is the best boat for going out at sea? Well, there's a boat that's suitable for small fishing parties. There's a boat suitable for going around the coast rescuing people. There's a big boat suitable for transporting huge amounts of freight across the world, but that's not the best boat for going out fishing in, is it? There is no best lens for wedding or portrait photography, because, for example, in wedding photography, you've got so many variables. You've got wide-angle group shots, in-close reportage wide-angle shots. Then you've got long telephoto shots for those candid moments where they don't need to know they're being photographed. Then you've got short-range telephoto for portraits and a lovely aesthetic and pleasing look on the face. My favorite lens for portrait work or beauty work is the 100mm Hasselblad 2.2. It's such a sharp lens. It's beautiful to use, very shallow depth of field, but that's in the medium format. In 35mm, the focal length would be about 85mm, so an 85mm fixed lens would be a good choice. Something of at least sort of 1.8, 1.4, giving you a nice shallow depth of field if you need it. But that's not versatile enough for general wedding photography in any respect whatsoever. You need a variety of lenses, and what most top wedding photographers do is they actually have at least two cameras hanging around their neck, one with a telephoto zoom and one with a wide angle, so they can switch between and don't miss a shot. If you're fumbling around trying to change lens while you're in the middle of a shoot, you're going to miss things. So there is no one lens, but around 85mm in the 35mm format is my preferred focal length for portrait work. Matthias Delot says, I was looking at Hasselblad lenses and most of them have a minimum aperture of f3.5. I was wondering, is it not an inconvenient when shooting portrait where you want to get some kind of nice bokeh effect? Well, that's actually an interesting point, but on medium format, because the magnification of the image is different, medium format lenses actually give you greater depth of field in many ways. They don't give you greater depth of field, but because you're shooting at a different distance and the magnification on the image, so what looks like f1.4 on a 35mm lens would be maybe f2.2 on a medium format lens. As a matter of fact, we just did a video for Hasselblad on that very subject. I'm just going to direct you over to that on here a second. Oh no, I'm on the wrong thing. I need to be on YouTube. YouTube, let's type in Hasselblad, and if we go to their channel, and we go to, right, so this video here, medium format depth of field comparison, you can find that on Hasselblad's YouTube channel. And what I do on this video is I show you, look, there you go, you can see there's two graphs, one with a 35mm camera on the right and one with a 35mm medium format camera on the left. And it's a side-by-side comparison of what depth of field looks like. So you can check that out at your leisure over there. Right, next question. Where am I? Justin Cantor. Can you post the link of the website for the copyright infringement? Yeah, I believe we can. I don't know how to do that. Can I send it to you? Let me just get that up for you. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to stick it in this bit of software here for Emma, and she might be able to drop it into Facebook. We have the technology. We have the skills. Now, talking of skills, I need to get back to the question. Where was my questions? That was from Justin. Posta Bella, which camera you recommend for product photography for starting a business? I don't know. I mean, I'd say any full frame 35mm camera that's got a reasonable resolution, like 22 megapixels or more. Some of the 35mm cameras go up to 46, 48 megapixels now. I recently tested the Nikon D850 against the Hasselblad medium format as a comparison of best in class. The Nikon D850, in my opinion, is the best 35mm camera there is, okay? And I was asked by Hasselblad to test it against their best medium format camera. Not really a fair test by any means, because the medium format is going to win. It is a medium format camera that costs $30,000 compared to $4,000, $5,000. But the Nikon was amazing. That was a D850. So, you know, any good quality full frame 35mm camera should suit your purposes, but you've got to be careful on the lenses in 35mm. There was a lot of stink when I did my comparisons about people saying, oh, you didn't really use the best Nikon lens or this, that, and the other. And yeah, fair enough, I didn't use the best Nikon lens, but why do I have to concern myself when I buy a lens from a company, whether it's going to work or not? I can buy any Hasselblad lens and they're all amazing. So I've got to start thinking about, oh, is that lens good enough to buy? Why is it even on sale if it's crap? I don't get that. I really don't get that. A lot of people can go, oh, you didn't use the best lens. Why are they selling such a crap lens? Why? Why are they selling a crap lens? And then people are saying, oh, you should go out and bought a Zeiss or a thing. Why do you have to go and buy third-party components and put those together to make the system perfect? If you manufacture something, it should be up to the job, and they should only sell what is up to the job. Otherwise, they're kind of ripping you off by selling stuff that isn't any good. That's my opinion anyway. Right, so make sure you check the quality of the lenses you're going to buy. As I said before, I've said this many times, most of my product photography work I do at about 80mm to 100mm focal length on medium format, so you're looking at about 60 to 80mm focal length in 35mm format. But you need a lens that works very well at small apertures, because a lot of product photography you need extra depth of field like f16, f22, and you need to make sure you're not having issues with diffraction and that you're still resolving good quality images. Right, let's move on because there's loads of questions coming in here. That was from Postabella. Jason Crane, hold on, didn't he just ask a question? Goodness me. Looking for a simple, cheap octabox setup. Can you recommend a suitable strobe that's not a Broncolor price? Well, there's lots of different studio lights on the market. Elinchrom, less expensive than Broncolor. They make some pretty reasonable stuff. Build quality is not as good as it used to be, in my opinion. There used to be a company called Bowens that made some good stuff, but I think they've gone bankrupt, but there may be some of their stuff still around. I'm not really an expert on what is the least expensive. There's a lot of Chinese brands coming on the market, but it's like anything, you know, you pay what you pay for what you get. What's the phrase? You get what you pay for. And sometimes you buy cheap and you pay twice, you know, so because it breaks and it busts. So I know with my Bron gear, it's good for a lifetime. It's very, very rare that anyone has a problem with Bron gear. They've got the Cyros in the Bron range, which I know is not the cheapest monoblock light, but you know, is it double the price? Is it 30% more? Is it? You got to think about these things when making that purchase decision. How long are you going to expect to use this stuff for? But Elinchrom could be a good middle of the road option. Crin Sporry says, "Hi Crin, how are you?" I know Crin. I have a question for you, Carl. Recently you gave a live session with an explanation about the comparison between the H6 and the Nikon DSLR. That received some criticism. Doesn't it always? Any type of comparison between a 35mm and medium format is going to get the fanboys out and get their knickers in a twist and have a big crybaby fit over a camera. For God's sake, people, let's get a grip on reality. There are far more important things to cry about. If I want to compare a Bugatti car against a Fiat, I'm going to do it. I don't care. I think it's funny, okay? It's interesting. I want to compare a BMW 1100 motorbike against a Ferrari, and the motorbike will win hands down on acceleration. It's not fair. I don't care. It's funny, okay? I got asked to do that comparison by Hasselblad. I did it. Best of class in that system against best of class in that system. That's what I did. Don't like it. Suck it up and go and watch TV. Right, where was I, Crin? Sorry. That received some criticism, yes. As an ambassador of Hasselblad, do you handle the balancing between the requested review from Hasselblad and objectivity as a photographer looking for the right tools? Yes, that's a very good point, Crin. I handle the balance as fairly as I can because as an ambassador for Hasselblad, it's a brand that I am, as an ambassador, I guess you're an evangelist for. You promote and etc., or you talk about their brand. But you only do it if you actually respect the brand or like the brand. I've been using Hasselblad since 2005, since they first went digital, when I felt their digital quality matched that of medium format film at the time. And I've continued to use the brand because it suits my purposes and the type of work that I do. The minute that their cameras aren't up to par and someone makes a tool, and remember to me they are just tools, the minute that someone makes a tool that does the job better, then that will be the tool I'm using. I can assure you of that. I am not in the business of giving an unfair voice to a brand or a company that I don't believe in or don't believe the quality is there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be using the product myself. Remember, I'm using the product myself for commercial reasons. So my opinions were based on the way I use the camera and how I compared it to how how I felt about it using it against the 35mm. Now the 35mm was very, very good. It's got lots of benefits, lots of advantages, such as it can shoot at probably 6 or 7 frames per second for action, for sports, for wildlife. It can probably focus much quicker. It definitely focuses much quicker. It's got lots more focus points. The Hasselblad's got one focus point in the middle, on the H6 anyway. The Nikon's got tons of the things. It's got matrix metering. It's got all these other different things. I use a camera in manual mode. I use it mostly in manual focus, and I use it in a studio environment for fashion, beauty, or product work. In all of the instances I use a Hasselblad, it wins hands down because of the medium format, because of the size of the sensor, because of the resolution, because of the tonal range, because of the color fidelity. The color fidelity is actually one of the most important key things. In video 3, in this, this big hoo-ha that's still going on about these videos I did, video 3, if you want to look at it that way, is probably the fairest comparison. Same lighting, same setup, same model, same everything, high quality Nikon lens on the Nikon camera, and did a like-for-like comparison. The Hasselblad pissed all over the Nikon in terms of color fidelity, resolution, tonal range, everything about it in terms of how the image looked was better. And people are still getting their knickers in a twist about this. I don't give a flying monkeys anymore what anyone thinks. All I care about is the tools I want to use. Those are the tools I want to use, and those are the tools I choose to use for those exact reasons. If the tools stop being the best tools, I will switch tools because I'm only interested in producing the best image quality. That's all that's on my mind. So you, and not you, Corinne, because I know you've used medium format, but all the people that keep seeming to think this was an unfair comparison, it's an unfair comparison in that I didn't show wildlife photography, or I didn't show fast action sports photography or super huge telephoto lenses or focusing, but I did mention all of that in the video. I showed how I use the camera. I was only showed or asked, show how you use a camera, even for landscape photography or portrait, beauty, product stuff, and that's exactly what I showed, and those are the results it gave. So get out your little pram, stop throwing your toys out of it, and calm down, everyone. Right, including me. Right, next question. God, Corinne, you kicked the hornet's nest again. Kick the hornet's nest. Narek Madzbak says, what do you prefer for portrait strobes or continuous lighting? I prefer strobes, as in, I don't know what Americans call strobes. I think that's studio lighting where it fires a burst of flash out of it, like these lights behind us here. These ones are studio lights. Now, anyway, talking of studio lights, right? Tonight, where is it? Have I lost it already? I've lost it. Oh, no, actually, we just had it there. Right, look at this. Lighting modifiers, beauty dish. This is a blog post that Ashley has put up. I'm clicking on it. Nothing. Oh, there it is. Right. Right. In my next live show, why does that do? Every time you click the thing, it gives you like a thing. Right, now it's gone, live show's coming soon. Right, this live show, Mastering the Beauty Dish, is coming tonight. Now, look at this. I'm going to move. He's gone already. He's going to follow me with this camera. I'm going to look over here. This is a beauty dish. You see this? This is a very common modifier. It's quite inexpensive as studio modifiers go. It's got a studio lamp head in it that's got a continuous light so you can see what you do. It's called a modeling light. And then it's got a burst of flash that comes out the same place from a little flash tube around that bit. This is a very popular modifier called the beauty dish. And tonight I'm doing a live show and I'm going to show you, it's called Mastering the Beauty Dish, and I'm going to show you how to get the best out of a beauty dish because it's quite an inexpensive modifier. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to compare it to a deep focus umbrella. I'm going to compare it to like a white umbrella. I'm going to show you the differences when you use the grid on it. I'm going to show you how you use the reflectors. I'm going to show you how you put edge lighting in. I'm going to show you all about this. Always wanted to do that on the live show, right? I'm going to show you all about that stuff on tonight's live show, which starts at 6 p.m. UK time and 1 p.m. New York time on carltayloreducation.com. If you're not familiar with carltayloreducation.com, it is probably the world's best online education photography platform, and it is one of the least expensive at $14 per month. You could tune in and just pay $14. It's worth $14 to see just one show, but no, we give you 2 shows per month, right? We give you more than that sometimes. And you get 10 years of our education platform, all 10 years of our content included in the $14 a month fee, and we bring out 2 new course modules every month as well. You get all of that for $14. You can sign up for 1 month, you can sign up for a year, 2 years if you want to save some money. You can join for a month and cancel. There's no limit. You can sign up and then cancel immediately if you want. We don't really mind because we know you'll love it so much that you'll want to stick around, okay? So if you haven't checked it out, check out carltayloreducation.com. Tonight, Mastering the Beauty Dish live. I think it's going to be a great show. We've got our model, Evie, the lovely Evie, coming in to model for us for that show. You can sit down again now, Tim. That's all good. Thank you very much. Well done. Tim just came in to move the camera there temporarily while I was gassing on. Let's go back to some questions. Daria said, can I possibly talk to you in person, please? Unlikely. unless you meet me at a live show, workshop somewhere, possibly. Why do you want to talk to me in person? Put it in the comments now. If you're the person who has been constantly calling us about post-production work, about you would like to offer your services in post-production, I'm afraid we don't need your services. I understand that you're looking for business and banging on doors is a great thing to do, but I do believe from speaking to our administrator, Emma, that you've called about 48 times now, and 48 of those times she said that we don't need those services because it's all done in-house. And a lot of my post-production services, I take care of myself, and occasionally Victor does some work for me as well. So if that's you, please stop calling. If it's not you, then of course, if it's something important, send an email and I'll consider whether I can talk to you in person. The reason I can't talk to everyone in person is we have 400,000 followers on YouTube. We have 240,000 followers on Facebook. If we took a request to speak in person to everyone who wanted to speak in person, I would be out of business, unless I charged for everyone who wanted to call. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we could have a personal helpline, pay $5, speak to me in person. That would never work, would it? What a stupid idea. Right, let's move on. Where was I? William David says, is it true that focus from Hasselblad is the best anti-moire tool in comparison to Capture One Pro? I can't honestly answer that question because I've only used Capture One Pro a couple of times and I've not tried the anti-moire tool in it. All I can tell you is that the anti-moire tool in focus is very, very good. Is it better than the Capture One Pro? Again, so I don't get myself in trouble, I can only say what I see, okay? I only ever say what I see, all right? I don't know the answer. I just know that the one in focus is very good. Focus software, that is. Chris Scott, hi Carl, can I ask the best heavy duty boom on wheels that can be used by one person? Well, there's some there. Those are the giraffe booms from Manfrotto. I call them giraffe booms, but Manfrotto don't call them giraffe booms. The phrase giraffe booms must be some old historical thing from back 20 years ago when I was shooting. I don't know, but those are Manfrotto ones. They're really good. We've got, Emma's going to paste a link to a chapter we've got on stands and equipment from our portrait section that answers a lot of those questions, shows some great detail on booms and using boom arms. She'll stick that in the Facebook feed right now, I believe. Now, where are we? Andrew Ship, I've noticed in your studio that you use lighting stands rather than using tracking space to save space. As a commercial photographer, I would have thought tracking would be a lot easier to use. Is there a reason you don't need to use tracking at all? I'm just going to move here a second. Let me just show you. So Andrew, let me just do this. I don't really need to save any space in here, funnily enough. There's Ash, look, say it, wave. There's Emma. Oh, look, well, look, we can do the whole woo, woo. We've got quite a bit of space. I'm very lucky to have a nice large studio. This is my 5th studio. My first studio was much, much smaller. And in a smaller studio, it would make sense to save space by using a tracking system on the roof. They're the ones where you pull your lights along the tracks on the roof and then you can pull them down on these sort of concertina things. And they are great, but my ceiling is actually like at an angle. My ceiling's 6 meters high. I don't really need it. I've got enough room to wheel booms around and stuff like that. But I know what you're saying, Andrew. The tracking systems can be really cool. And they can be very useful for getting your wires off the ground. I mean, I think all of the people here that's ever assisted on a shoot would agree that the biggest problem is wires on the ground and they're all nodding frantically there like pigeons pecking at stuff. The wheels, when you roll, the cables get in the way. So with those track systems on the ceiling, it's great because the cables are up high and then there's just all your floor space is clear. So yeah, they are good. So good point, Andrew. Dyer says another question. I seriously want to make photography to be my main career. What can you do to help me through my journey, please? Well, I can't help you through your journey other than our education platform. I mean, I can't give you, but you're the same person who said, can you talk to me in person? I can't be there to guide you through your photographic journey and make that work for you. No one was there to guide me through mine. What you do have at your disposal now, which wasn't available when I was younger, was facilities like carltailoreducation.com and other education platforms as well, and business platforms, business education platforms. We've got a whole course on business within our platform to help photographers with their marketing, their networking, and everything else going on, as well as their photography. The tools that you have at your disposal now are incredible compared to what I had at my disposal. So I would say utilize those tools, make the best of those tools, pick up tips where you can from the internet as you can. But remember, photography isn't just about photography. If you're talking about it as a career, you're talking about business. You need to know how to run a business. You need to know about marketing, supply, demand, competition, all of those things that any business, whether you're a restaurant opening, whether you're a building firm opening, you need to know those business skills. That is the fundamental thing. That's to do with economics of supply and demand. The first thing you need to think about before you open a business is supply and demand. Do not open a business if no one wants your services, okay? Because you ain't going to make any money. Supply and demand. Are there clients that want those services? Is there a demand for it? And who else is supplying it? Okay, that's what supply and demand means. Right, next one. Chris Skinner. Hi, Carl. Do you use focus stacking in any of your product photography? Yes, quite a few times. As a matter of fact, we have got, let me show you, Chris, product photography. Coming very soon is this course here. Can you see that? I don't know if I can zoom in on that there. That watch shot, that detailed interior of that watch, we used focus stacking on that. That's coming soon to carltailoreducation.com. Right, I'm going to touch on another subject now before I take some more questions, okay? Remember, we got our live beauty dish show tonight, 6 p.m. on carltailoreducation.com. Don't miss it if you're into a bit of portrait photography, beauty photography on a budget, okay? Because we're going to be using budget stuff for that one. Right, now I talked about the copyright thing. I want all of you to get over to the Copyright Alliance and support this bill to improve copyright for photographers for low-level copyright infringements, okay? Rather than the big stuff. This is going to help photographers tremendously. And thank you to Michael Greco for sending that over to me and pointing that out. And right, next subject was on the BBC. Now, I wanted to talk about this. I thought I was going to be the first to talk about this because I saw it on the BBC, and I follow the BBC News website, avidly. And since then, f-stoppers and Petapixel have also picked up on it, so you may have seen it already. But anyway, this world-renowned film director, Wim Wenders, has hit out at iPhone photography. It's a bit of a tall headline, that, because he didn't really hit out at iPhone photography. What he's done is he said that iPhone photography, in many ways, has killed photography. But he didn't mean it in such a bad way. What he meant was that now with iPhoneography, everyone is like taking pictures, but no one's taken them in such a thoughtful way, or not many people are taking them in a thoughtful way. And even those that do, because there are some great iPhoneographers and great iPhoneography or smartphone photography, we see it all over the place. We see it, on Instagram and stuff like that. There's some great stuff out there. But what he's saying is that people don't print their work anymore. It's not done in such a considered way anymore as it was in the old days. And that's fair enough. I understand with him. I understand and sympathise with what he's saying. But then on the other hand, he was saying that no one ever sees these pictures, which I disagree with, because actually maybe more people see them now with Instagram. Because Instagram, you're able to reach far more people than you could reach by running your own local exhibition or putting them in a competition. So in many ways, I disagree with some of the things he was saying in the article. I do agree with some of the stuff he was saying in there about how people take a photo and then they stick 10 filters on it, all automated filters. So you're just turning out a rendition of the same old crap that everyone else turns out, right? Just nonsense. Oh, let's stick a greeny, yellowy filter and make it look like retro hipster. What a load of old rubbish, right? And everyone does it. So why bother? I mean, and he's absolutely right about that point, but he's not right, in my opinion, about putting the work out there and getting it seen. So, in many ways, there are things about the smartphone industry that has brought photography to the masses. It's got more people interested in photography, and in other ways, it has devalued photography as well. So there are two sides to the argument. Should we continue taking some questions before we go too deep? All right, Matt Gulliver. Hi, Carl. What bags do you recommend for storing Who's emailing this question? Is Manfrotto emailing all these questions in today? I know Lorenza is sat there. She's like got fake names sending me, right? Manfrotto makes some excellent bags. As a matter of fact, we use this one called a reloader bag, which can fit a couple of bodies in, lenses, it's got wheels on it, it's got a handle that pulls out. It's an amazing bag. I absolutely love it. It's called the Manfrotto Reloader 550, I think. I may have got that wrong, but that is a great bag to use. I also, in fairness, so I don't just talk about one brand, I also use Pelly cases. They used to be called Pelican. I think they're called Pelly now. I use Pelly cases if you want like the really rigid, hard ones, although I believe Manfrotto are doing some rigid, hard ones as well. So check out some of the Manfrotto bags on their website, Matt. Eddie Haid says, what beauty dish is that? That one that you can't see anymore that's up there is, look at this, Ashley's getting up, she's running to the camera, she's going to point the camera up so that as I do this with my pen, miraculously, there it is revealed. There the beauty dish is revealed. That is a 70 centimetre diameter silver beauty dish. It's not the Broncolor one. The Broncolor one, Broncolor have bought a new one out, and what they should have done, Mr. Chris Burfoot, is send me one so I could have used it on tonight's show. But I haven't received a new Broncolor beauty dish yet because Broncolor have brought out a new one. I'd like to put it to the test. I've got to be honest, I never really liked the old Broncolor one. I found the light a bit hard because the dish size was too small. So I opted for this third-party brand one, just an independent one. It's a 70 centimetre silver beauty dish. And I will be putting it to the test tonight's live show at 6 o'clock UK time, 1 p.m. US time. I hope you can join us on carltayloreducation.com and watch it. Next question. Shane Humphrey says, can you briefly explain the difference between the H6D and H6X? I can possibly, I'm not 100% sure. The H6D is the digital, let me get it. Wait right there. I'm going to sing so that you know that I'm still here. Actually, I won't sing because my singing is terrible, but I am just getting a camera right now, and I'm bringing it over here. This is the Hasselblad H6D. And this camera is an amazing camera. This is the medium format full frame sensor with a 100 megapixel chip. You can see that's the expensive bit. The lens is also the expensive bit. Now that is their top line camera. The other one they do is a H6X, which basically I think, if I'm not mistaken, is basically that. You get that bit, you don't get this bit. And I think you can then choose whether you want a film back or a different back to put on it. But I believe you can still put the film back on the H6 as far as... I'm not 100% sure on the fine details on that stuff because I don't use it, to be honest. So if you want to know the fine details, please contact Hasselblad, Shane, because I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't like to mislead you. I'm absolutely sure, though, that on Hasselblad's website, it will probably explain quite clearly the differences. Patsy Little says, Carl, how many hours do you work in a day? That's a good question, Patsy. Probably easier to ask how many hours I don't work in a day. So on average, because I've got two little kids, right? The little brats were here before, destroying the place, laying waste like a tornado to my studio because they're on school holidays, so the wife brought them in while she had some stuff to do. The kids, when you've got kids, they take up a lot of your time, obviously, more of my wife's time than my time. So I'd get to work usually somewhere around 7:30, sometimes earlier if we're really busy, sometimes I'm in at 6:30, and sometimes like this morning, I didn't get until 8 o'clock, late for me. I got in late. I had a lie-in this morning. And then I normally go home at about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, but then I carry on working when I'm at home. So I take my laptop home, then I've got to have meetings with people, emails, catch up on stuff, discussions with people that work here about things, and so it's never ending. So occasionally what I like to do to chill out is watch a movie. So I watch films, so I can just relax, chill out, watch a film, have a beer, and then the rest of the time I'm working, okay? And weekends I sometimes work as well, but if I'm not working, then I go diving, fishing, or out in the boat or something like that. So that's what I do, Patsy. I must admit, though, since now I'm older and I've been working in this for 25 years, I don't work as hard as I used to work. When I was younger, when I started my business, when you start a business, you are working non-stop every day. Nemaja Stanovic says, Dear Carl, greetings from Serbia. Hello. Easy one. What is the one thing you wish you knew when you started taking photos? I wish I knew more about light when I started taking photos. I have to say, probably arrogantly so, I know a lot about light now. I know a hell of a lot about light, about how light works, how you can manipulate light, the physics of light, its interaction with objects, its reflection of different textures, surfaces, inverse square law, the coloration of light, the human visual response to light. I've studied a lot of scientific papers and things to do with light. I wish I knew all that stuff early on, because that's what made the biggest difference to my photography in the last 10 years compared to when I started 20 years ago. As an example, let's just cut to, here's my website, right? This is Squarespace. Just to put a shout out for Squarespace, they sponsor us. This is my Squarespace website. It's a Wells template if anyone's interested. Now this is my work. So in relation to that last question, 10 years ago I wouldn't have known how to make that picture. Because I wouldn't have known the physics of light on how to do it. I wouldn't have understood why that picture is effective in a certain way, especially in this area here. There is something to do with light that's effective. So in the control of light and how light invokes emotion and how it conveys emotion and how every picture, like so this one has got a different feeling about it compared to the one that I showed you earlier, even though that is exactly the same set. Look, that's the same wall, the same swing, but look at the emotion of the picture. Think about how that picture feels and the mood that it invokes in you compared to the mood that that invokes in you. And that's all to do with light, okay? Light is the invoker of emotion. And when you understand light thoroughly, then you really learn some elements about photography that will take you to the next level. George Eastman, who was the owner and founder of Kodak, he said, one of his famous quotes was, I can't remember it off the bat, but it was something like, learn light, love light, and everything to do with light, because it is the one thing that will influence and change your photography more than anything. And he was absolutely so right with that comment. Now, if you want to know more about light and you want to learn the things that I've learned that I've then gone on to pass on to other people, is, for example, in this section on the website here, in the portrait section, my first 15 chapters are dedicated to understanding all of these things. Not all of it, some of it's to do with equipment, but this one chapter here, Introduction and Understanding Light, this is one of our most popular chapters. Look how many comments this has, positive comments. This just goes on and 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 on, because we have so many grateful members on KyleTaylorEducation.com that just love the knowledge that I imparted about light on that particular course. So that's the answer to that one, Nemanja. Next one, George Andrews. Since LED technology is getting much better now, have you used continuous LEDs instead of monoblocks yet? No, I haven't, George, because I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's versatile enough. I don't think it's powerful enough. And I don't think you can modify it well enough. A light is only as good as the modifiers you can put on it, okay? And you can't put an LED effectively into a parabolic reflector, for example. So at the moment, the answer is no. Also, I can get way more power out of a monoblock or out of a studio light, and it's just one burst of light, so it doesn't affect or upset the model's eyes. She's not glaring into really bright lights. You know, we've got HMI lights here. HMI lights give pure daylight, really high-powered pure daylight, amazing, but very expensive. I'd rather use those than LEDs because the quality, the clarity, the purity of the light is better, but they're too expensive in many ways for photography, and they're so bright the models don't like looking at them because they're shining in their eyes too much. Michael Pretorius, from my experience, a photographer as a job has evolved to becoming more like creators instead of just capturing a moment, but rather create a moment. Would your opinion be on that? No, my opinion would not be on that, Michael. My opinion is that certainly in the type of photography I do, everything I do is creating the moment, not capturing a moment, okay? I build a photograph. I build the photograph by design from an idea into an image, into form, into shape, through light and through subject and control of the subject. So I make a photograph, I don't take a photograph. There are certain types of photographers that take photographs, such as journalists, photojournalists, reportage, sports, wildlife, but even those have a much better success rate if they do their research, they do their planning, they do the whole pre-visualization and thought process, and they think about making the photograph first. So I'm afraid on that one, I disagree with you. Oh, he's agreeing. Oh, that's sorry. Emma's pointing out that's what he agreed. That's what he's saying. And then in that case, they're not. Yes. Then yes, absolutely. Make a photograph. Don't take a photograph. Right now, where are we now? George Andrews also says most people bounce off white or soft non-specular portraits. Have you used bouncing off grey instead? Wouldn't make any difference. If it's neutral grey, grey is just a grey, black, white, and any tone of neutral grey doesn't have any colour in it. So effectively, bouncing off white is the same as bouncing off grey, but you'd have to put the power up on the light if you're bouncing off grey. If you wanted to bounce off white and make it the same as bouncing off grey, then just turn the power of the light down. That's it. There would be no difference. There would be maybe a potentially tiny difference in the fall off of the bounce and then the amount of bounce around the room. But I don't see how the physics would work any differently in that simply the grey is just a tone of white, if you like. Next one. Jason says, travelling to Venice soon and wanted your advice about backing up my pics. I just got back from Venice, actually. Well, I went into Venice last time. Very interesting city, but I didn't go into Venice this time. Advice on backing up my pics. Maybe uploading to Lightroom, but not sure how. Can this be done via an iPad? I don't know. I mean, you can use cloud services, but then you're going to need a fast internet connection, and if you're traveling, that might be expensive. I just take your laptop, copy your images into your laptop, and keep a backup hard drive. And you're just going to have to be careful you don't lose it. Either one, or get out, or when you put your luggage, check one in, don't check the other in. I don't know. Traveling is always an issue. If you have an internet connection, a good one, then obviously you can upload your photos to a cloud space storage like, iCloud or some stuff like that, I guess. George says, Fujifilm is about to come out with an inexpensive medium format camera to go alongside its more expensive one. Is that a good thing? I guess it's a good thing. I can't see why it would be a bad thing. If it's inexpensive, why is it inexpensive? What doesn't it do? So for example, like the Pentax 645, it's an okay medium format camera, but good job I didn't knock that off the table, right? But that, it doesn't have any, this can sync at 2,000th of a second with my flash with no other, any flash power can sync at 2,000th of a second with this camera because it's got an internal leaf shutter. The Pentax 645 can't do that, even though it's a medium format camera. So is the inexpensive Fuji one going to be missing some features? I don't know. I don't know about that particular camera. Have you started to shoot cinematic photography, a video, or just photography? Well, actually, interestingly, we've got a cinematic video coming out very soon that we've shot. I can't say any more about it at this moment. It's confidential. I'm hoping it'll be out in 2-3 weeks, and then we'll be able to see for ourselves. Right, we got one more thing. We got one more thing I want to show you. Just finished a job for a client. These guys have actually been clients of mine for quite some time. That's not the ones I wanted to look at. Ashley and I were working on this project for them the other day, and we were very pleased with the resulting pictures. Let me just bring a couple of these up. This just gives you an idea of what we do in the daytime. So this one was for the New Jersey apple brandy. So this was the shot that we did, sort of similar to the whiskey shots that I do. So I was very happy with the results on that one. This was their new salted caramel, and they wanted the pouring caramel off the spoon, and we had to do it with the ice cream and the pot, and like build a little mini set to give it the sort of nice feel. So that one was quite nice. And then also the cider one there, just again. And you see how I often just use little props and a few leaves, well, these are just dead leaves, but some bits of rope, some nice wooden surfaces, the right coloration. The main thing is always about the product being the hero. The product's got to stand out the most. It's got to be the thing. It's got to be desirable. But you can kind of create and wrap a set around that. And if we go back to even the brandy one, you know, again, it's the tonality of the colors, the tones, what you build around it, that it doesn't compete with the photo, and the main product always remains the hero and the king. The set should always just be there to support the hero. It's like the supporting cast for the movie star, okay? That's the way you need to think about it with product photography. I thought I would just mention that because it seemed interesting at the time. Right, we'll take a couple more questions and then I've got to knock this on the head because it's already 2 o'clock. Goodness me, we've been on air for an hour. Eddie says, no, someone else says. Stephen Randall says, I have a question. I often find it very hard to select my best work. What I may prefer is different to what others may like. How do you choose the right image? That's a good question, Stephen. I'd go with your gut. Okay, I always go with my gut. Sometimes I ask the opinion of my other staff here, and then usually I ignore them. So it doesn't really matter. So I've kind of given up asking opinions because your own work is kind of personal to you, and you need to go with what you like, but you must learn to not get distracted by your prejudices, if you like, or your affinity towards an image because of how much work you put in it. Sometimes photographers like an image because they know they spent ages and ages and ages doing it and actually isn't that good, all right? And they think they should like it more because of the amount of effort that went into it. But if the image doesn't make sense visually, so you have to try and look at your work with a clear mind and a clean slate and look at it for the reasons of aesthetics, interest, narrative, contrast, light, emotion. Emotion is the key one. When we look at photographs, we should, there are 2 things that an image must do, okay? An image should invoke emotion and or deliver information. If it does both of those things, it's a successful image. If it does one of those things, it's doing part of its job. So those are the things you should go with. If it invokes emotion in you, but that emotion shouldn't be coupled to the fact that you spent 9 hours trying to create the shot and you're emotionally connected it in that way. It should invoke emotion in you as a viewer of the image. So go with your gut. Finally, 2 more questions, then we're done. Eddie Haid says, I'm USA Eastern Time. When will tonight's live beauty dish broadcast be? It will be at 1 p.m. your time, Eddie. But like all of our live shows, they are recorded and they go on replay about 1 hour after they were live. So they're there available to watch after the live show. And we obviously still answer questions the following day when we all come back to work or whatever we, we answer the support questions. So even if you miss it live, you can still ask questions and we'll still answer them because that's how nice we are here. Hey, well, we're nice. We're a nice bunch, right? Actually, I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Right. Jason, was this the 12 light job? No, it wasn't. The 12 light job was something else that I can't talk about, which again you'll see in October. Josephine Caruana says, hi Carl, will you ever do a live show with a landscape photographer? Quite possibly. I know a couple of landscape photographers, so I might consider that, Josephine. Now, talking about the staff, here's a way to embarrass them all. Let's take a look at this. We often get asked about the staff and who works here and who does what. Right, here, can you switch over please, Ash? This is the team. There is me, obviously, and a little bit of a blob about me. There's Tim Godion. Tim's one of my business partners. Tim's in charge of our website, the creative look of the website, the design of the website, the build and all the stuff that goes on to keep the thing running and our membership model. John, another one of the business partners, he's our technology director. He's involved in all the analytics, the nerd stuff. This guy, give him a graph, right? Oh my God, give him a graph. He loves graphs, right? We have Skype meetings, screen shares, right? And all he loves to do is show us graphs. He loves a graph, this guy. There's my wife. She does our accounts and finance and stuff. She's the one who chases. Look at that ferocious look in her eyes. She's the one who chases down people that owe us money, which is a good thing. Ben is our video guy. He's the top guy on all our video editing. He's super amazing at video editing, and he's also one of our cameramen. I should also point out that Tim is one of our cameramen as well. Emma is in charge of customer support, administration, all the workings of the company that goes on. She's very, would you say you're efficient? super efficient admin person. She's also the one on the live desk that answers the questions during the live shows and then feeds those over to us. And then our newest member of staff, Ashley, a native of South Africa, who's only here on a temporary basis. We're trying to convince her to stay longer. She's been an absolutely brilliant photography assistant because she's got a background in photography, and she's also turned out to be a pretty good video editor as well. And she's standing in for Ben right now because Ben's in Disneyland with Mickey Mouse, and she's standing in for Ben doing the live desk and the camera switching. So this is the team, and I just wanted to say a big thanks to the team because I never thank them on air because they're all really good people and they all work really hard. Well, most of the time they work really hard. So that's the team that works at carltayloreducation.com that makes all of this happen. Okay, it makes all of these little things we put out on YouTube, on Facebook, but most importantly, it makes the whole carltayloreducation.com platform happen. So we're just a small team of 7 or so people, and that's what makes it happen. And we're very passionate about what we do, and we hope that you enjoy what we do. If you'd like to see us do it live on a photo shoot, then join us tonight at 6 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. US New York time. We'll be doing Mastering the Beauty Dish. Thanks for joining me on this live Q&A. We're going to slot another one of these in on Facebook next week. We'll see you then.